We are wrapping up class number 11. This is part 2 of class 11. Lesson 4, starting with section H. Halfway through section H on page 95. Say, how many brothers and sisters are in your family? So you go to page 67. And right here in the middle of the page, it gives you a way of saying that. Say hoshk u shash braina. We are 3 sisters and 6 brothers. This is not the most common way of saying this, but this is how you do it with the be verb, and it's a completely, perfectly okay way to do it. Now, in the event that you don't have any brothers or you don't have any sisters, go to the footnote on page 68. Footnote 1. If you don't have any brothers, say braninen. If you don't have any sisters, say hoshikninen. And we'll study this irregular verb to have. We'll study that in lesson 6. So what would that look like? It would look like this. So you can say braninen, I don't have any brothers. Hoshikninen, I don't have any sisters. So you could put a number in here and define how many sisters you have. So for example, you could say, do hoshkin bas braninen. We are 2 sisters, but we have no brothers. Or, for example, you could say, chor braina bas hoshikninen. We are 4 brothers, but we have no sisters. So you can use those as your models for knowing how to complete that. Say, don't give it. Page 86. Okay, so now we're going to go to page 86. Don't give it. So that would be right here in the middle of page 86. If you want to say give it, you say bida. If you want to say don't give it, you say nada. And if you do it in the plural, you say nadan. That's the Dahuki. In the Zahuli dialect, it's nada and nadin. You can see that in the footnote. How do you say a or an? For example, a book. Okay, so you go back to page 86. Right here near the top of the page. It says that uck or yuck is a or an. So if you have kur, boy or boys, and you want to say a boy, you just put uck on the end of kur. Kurak, a boy. If you have a noun that ends in a vowel, such as bra, and you want to say that's the brother or the brothers, and you want to say a brother, then you put yuck on the end of it, brayak. You don't actually pronounce the Y, brayak. We used to not write it at all, but standard Latin script includes the Y, so I include that Y buffer now in my work also. What does Jorek di Beja mean in English? In Dahuki, it's Jorek di Beja. So look at page 90. D. Joreka Nauroze Beja means say Nauroz again. Let's see if I can find a page number for that. On the bottom of page 91, it says Joreka Di Beja in the Tehuki dialect. And that means to say it again. Let's go back and look at our section D, see if it's there. Yeah, right here at the bottom. It didn't show up. So page 70, Joreka Di means again, and Beja means to say or to tell. So say it again. That's on page 70. So we could make this 70 here. Say, tell your sister the story of Nowruz, page 89. Here it is. Tell the story of Ramadan. How are we going to change that to tell the story of Nowruz? We would simply substitute the word Nowruz for Ramadan. So that would look like this. Nowruze Beja. Story of Nowruz. What is the verb for to say or tell? It's on page 70 and 89. On page 89, Guten Beja is to say or tell. Okay, that wraps up that section. Let's look at section I, storytelling. So point to pictures of your family members and talk about them. Write the Kurdish translations of the sentences below with your information. Refer to key phrases on page 70, relationship words on page 72, and occupations or jobs on page 71, or the dictionary for more occupations. So this is something you want to work through on your own, and then work it through with your language helper to make sure you've done it correctly. At the bottom, continue writing about your family members. Write the sentences first in English and then in Kurdish. In part 2, like when you're at someone else's house, look at someone else's pictures of their family members and ask questions about them. Make comments about the pictures. So you could ask them to bring some pictures. Taswiret aylawa bina. Then you can ask them about pictures. Oh, Kia, who's that? And you talk about who it is. And then if it's appropriate, what is his name? What is her name? What is his job? What is her job? How old is she? How old is he for a child? Or for a really old person? That's all right. And then for a child, what grade is he in? What grade is she in? And it's always appropriate to ask your friends who are the same gender as you, how many sisters and brothers are you? Who is older than everyone? Who is younger than everyone? Now, the thing that's tricky about talking about family relationships is a cultural thing. I'm going to look at you while I do this. How can I make you see my face? Oh, you see it. So the thing you want to be really careful of in talking about family relationships is if you're a woman, you don't want to show too much interest in your friend's husband or brothers that are 18 or older. If you're a man, likewise, you don't want to show too much interest in your friend's wife at all, or daughters that are 13 or 14 or older. And the reason for this is in Islam, where our friends are coming from, it's perfectly normal for a man to have up to 4 wives. Acceptable, I should say. Not normal, but acceptable. And that wife could be as young as 13 or 14. So even though you look like you're happily married, in their eyes, you could always be on the lookout for another wife. And if they happen to have a daughter who's 13 and very pretty, and you ask about her, they could interpret that to mean that you're interested in her. Oh, so don't do that. And likewise, especially if you're a single girl, as I was for many years, don't show any interest at all in the grown brothers of the family or the grown sons of the family. Now with the husband, that's a little bit different. If he is sitting in the room with his wife, with you, it's fine to have a conversation with him. And he may choose not to look at you. I remember when I was in Virginia once, I was at a friend's house, Kurdish friend's house from Zaho. And she was in the kitchen making lunch for us. And her husband was in the small living room with me and the children. And the kitchen was just around the corner, so it was perfectly fine. He sat the entire time with his ear to my face, so I was not looking at his face. And he held a long conversation with me. It was a nice conversation, but he was showing me respect by not looking at me in the eyes and by being very exaggerated about not looking at me in the eyes because he wanted to show me respect and to show that he wasn't interested in me at all romantically and that he loved his wife, and so he was just going to stare straight ahead and not look at me at all to have this conversation with me. And that, I would say, is very normal, very acceptable with Kurdish people when they want to show you respect. So we need to do the same and give them the respect that they would like us to give them. And when you're girls, when you're talking with your girlfriends, don't ask about their husband or brothers or sons. And likewise, men do the same thing. Okay, let's go on. Okay, so also, when you finish talking about the family members, very important to say something like, your pictures are beautiful or nice, and Khodewan Behelit. So may God keep them being the people that you just looked at their pictures. One other thing, they might show you someone who has passed away. Is your grandfather alive? If they show you someone who has passed away, they would expect you to say something like Hode Afu. Which means, may God forgive him. Now, that's a very Muslim thing to say because they believe that in the afterlife, it's possible that if someone wasn't forgiven in their life on earth, that God could potentially, if he's having a good day, he could forgive and they could still get into heaven. Since that's not really a biblical mindset, I usually choose not to say something like Hode Afuka. Instead, I usually choose to say something like, oh, that means sorry, or Hode Galwabit, may God be with you, Yani, the people who are alive. Say something to show empathy that you're sorry that that person is no longer with the family. You can ask your language helper what to say. In section J, you have a writing exercise. Write the sentences in the correct order, say them aloud, be sure and practice them with your language helper. You can check all your answers in Appendix S. In section K on page 99, this is a really important exercise. So you look at this and then you write the Kurdish words for the relationship words on the family tree here. So you write the Kurdish word for grandfather right here. And look at page 72. That'll give you the information that you need. And you know, if your family tree doesn't look like this, that's okay. For this exercise, just do this so that you can learn these words. Practice them with your language helper. And then part 2, using your own family tree on page 73, tell your language helper about the people, the names, their jobs, etc. This will be a very stretching exercise for you, but if you will do this, you'll get more and more comfortable with these relationship terms. And when other people talk about their relatives and they just whip off those names so fast, you'll be able to understand them better. Finally, part 3, ask your language helper to draw his or her family tree and to tell you about the people, their names, their jobs. When I first moved to Virginia and I was working with Kurdish refugees from Zaho, I kept making the same mistake over and over, that I would ask this woman, how are your mother and father? You know, like, how are they in Kurdistan? And they were dead. They had passed away years before. And I kept forgetting this information because I have a bad memory. So finally, my ministry partner and I, Amy, a different Amy than the Amy you guys know, we sat down and we made family trees of all the families in Kurdistan in our town in Washington, D.C. that we knew. And we put all that information there. And then before we would go visit a family, I would look at that chart again and remind myself, oh, this person is a sister-in-law of that person. I can ask her about that. So how is so-and-so? And then that's a safe thing to ask about. So I didn't make that stupid mistake again. It's very embarrassing. Finally, on the last page of this lesson, you have section L, the homework. And that's all out there. All right, so hope you have enjoyed this lesson, and I trust that your language learning is going well. I would say don't rush this lesson. The relationship names and terms are very, very important. And if you will spend the time to really learn those words and learn how to use them in sentences using the be verb as we've modeled for you, then that will make you so much more comfortable in going to visit your Kurdish friends and having something to talk about. You can take family pictures on your phone with you. You could take a hard copy photo book with you. But by all means, when you go visit your Kurdish friends, introduce them to your family. They need to know that you have parents and aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters and nephews and nieces and cousins. They need to know, they'll be keenly interested to know about your spouse's family too. And they may not bring themselves to talk about it, but if you want to show them your spouse's family, they would probably be interested in that. And what it does is it helps them to relate to you as a real person. When you show them that you have brothers and sisters and parents and friends, then they're like, oh, they think to themselves, oh, you're a real person. And that helps them to enjoy getting to know you more. When I first moved to Virginia about, I don't know, 1999, a long time ago, and I was getting to know some of the Kurdish refugees that were there. Some of the kids, my parents who lived in Texas, came to visit me, and some of the kids were like, you have parents? I'm like, yes, I have parents. And they were just shocked that I had parents because they only ever saw me come to visit their mom and them. So it was a good thing for them. Okay, so this is the end of this lesson. I'll go on and record the beginning of the next lesson too, if you're listening today. Have a great day and keep hanging in there with your Kurdish language learning. It's definitely worth it. Okay, bye for now.